just got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your
The foliage of fall is in full effect in the Empire State, and under the backdrop of autumn are the final three races of the season, and all engines are a-go for today's race on Long Island. Hi, hello, and good afternoon, race fans. It's a beautiful day in Sag Harbor, New York, as we welcome you to the Bridgehampton Race Circuit for stop number 10 of the 2025 and 2003 FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship, the Long Island Fall Classic. Once again, welcome everybody to today's coverage of FMGTC Racing here on the North American Sim Racing Network. My name is Trey Wright, and with 3 races remaining on the 2025 season, the witching hour officially begins today as the last quarter of the campaign starts with 84 laps around Long Island. We're not going to mince words or waste any time as we'll get right into the point standings off of the gun as you take a look at the standings for GT Le Mans on your screen. Zagura Sato has finally gotten around Mike Vincent Jr. for the points lead after a wild race for both of those drivers at the streets of Thornton a month and a half ago. Zachary Fitzwater waiting in the wings, 85 points back of Sato, while Vincent Jr. is 60 back in the number 49 car. Riley Sampson, after his win on the streets of Thornton, rises up to 4th in the standings. Michael Lewis rounding out the top 5. Same thing with Sebastian Palmer. Both the 56 and the 20 tied for 570 points on the grid. And they currently sit tied for 5th, 100 points behind Sato. Bradley Ream is the first driver that is more than a race's worth of points behind the race leader in GT Le Mans. He sits 135 back, tied for 7th with Skylar Taylor. Caleb Rose is 9th, and Owen Miles rounds out the top 10 as both the 5 and the 59 cars tied for 9th on the grid with 165 points back of Aguirre Sato. Sato looking for a nice run this afternoon in the 49 car and just trying to steer clear of any sort of trouble, but Mike Vincent Jr. does start on the outside pole position of the inside of that number 3 machine. We'll see what he is able to do here on the start for what is going to be an absolutely wild race here at the Bridgehampton Race Circuit. Then over on the GT Daytona side of things, it is a much closer points battle with Dylan Matthews in the lead by 40 points over Blake Beauville, the defending winner of this race from 1 year ago. Brooke Paquette sits 45 back of Matthews and 5 points back of Beauville, which equates to a single position on the racetrack. Aaron Abel is back in the fray. He is 49 back of Matthews, and Esteban Lasser rounding out the top 5, 55 points back of Dylan Matthews, and Carson Miller sits 60 points back in the 72 machine in the 6th spot, which meaning that the top 6 drivers are separated by as many points as 1st and 2nd are in GT Le Mans and GT Daytona. As always, it's a much closer battle with a lot more parity than we typically see in GTLM. Alex Lozano sits in 7th, Logan Alexander falls down to 8th, Colin Bear is 9th, and those 9 drivers are the only 9 drivers that are within a full race's worth of points of each other. Nathan Buchanan rounds out the top 10, 134 points back of Dylan Matthews. He is going to need a nice handful of runs over these next 3 races if he wants to have a shot at this championship here this afternoon. Bridgehampton is your run-of-the-mill East Coast road course, a very windy road here on Long Island with a ton of elevation, especially on the back end of the course, But the trouble spot for today is going to be the entrance and exits of Turn 2, the Hansgen turn, a fast downhill right-hander with a history of causing chaos in both the FMGTC and the Mission Barbecue Cup Series. We'll be seeing the majority of our incidents occur in the Hansgen. Other than that, it's one of our longest races of the year in terms of time, but only 2 pit stops are on the docket for this afternoon. A very chilly one at that, the mercury hovering around 55 degrees here on Long Island. It's the first race of our NASRN doubleheader this weekend with FMGTC action this afternoon on Long Island and Mission Barbecue Cup Series coverage tomorrow evening in St. Louis. We'll get things kicked off right away here in New York as we send things down trackside for the command to start the engines to kick off the 2025 Long Island Fall Classic.
Drivers, start your engines.
We are ready to go racing here on Long Island as the engines have been fired. As all 42 cars come to life on the front straightaway. John Andrews, your Watkins Glen winner from about 3 months ago, sits on the pole position in the Ace Hardware number 3 Jaguar XKR. And the dominant driver for GT Le Mans this season, the unsponsored number 78 of Mike Vincent Jr. will round out the front row for GTLM. Back in here for GT Daytona, they're led to the green flag by the number 72 711 Mustang. That's Carson Miller driving that Mustang, and another Mustang sits on the front row. Connor Monaco's number 21 Harley Davidson Ford Mustang will round out the front row for GT Daytona. The field will roll through. Most troublesome spot on the course, the Hansgen turn, also known as turn number 2 on the course. That's going to be the biggest trouble spot for these drivers all afternoon long, and especially right on the start. Everybody is piled up in a double wide start here for this afternoon's race. You can see the fall foliage coming into full effect here. And the beautiful colors of autumn here on Long Island. Yellow, orange, red, and brown. Beautiful colors for a beautiful classic racetrack for the third and final race of the 2025 FMGTC season. Like we said, starting on the outside pole, the 78 of Vincent Jr. Back in here, 4 rows back, Aguirre Sato, the points leader. Like we said in the pre-race, those two separated by only a handful of points, 60 points. Separate the 49 and the 78. Zachary Fitzwater starting shotgun in the field in 21st. And Riley Sampson also starting towards the tail end of the field in car number 36. And back in here, Dylan Matthews in the number 26. Starting towards the front end of the field in the UPS Ford Mustang, Connor Monaco on the outside pole. Blake Beauville, the last car in line, 40 points back of Dylan Matthews, but this race, it's all about the start. And if you can survive the start, you should be able to make it to the end. 84 laps are on the docket for this afternoon's race. The pit window, 34 to 36 laps. Roberto Crown Jr. and Blake Beauville, the 2 previous winners of this race. Beauville, like we said, starting towards the tail end of the field in 9th. And for Roberto Crown Jr., his best start to the season, 33 machine starting in 7th. The field goes up through the Eastern Straight underneath of the Lowenbrough Bridge towards the Ardent's turn number 13. They're getting ready to set them loose for 84 laps of action here at the Bridgehampton Race Circuit as the Chevy Corvette pace car gets ready to peel off onto the pit area. John Andrews, looking for win number 2 in the FMGTC this season, will lead this field down the front straightaway. 3 races to go in the 2025 season. The green flag is out and away. We're live for the Long Island Fall Classic. And into this opening set of turns, and off the racetrack goes the 78 car. He is wide off, but everybody remaining straight for the time being. But a horrible start to the race for Mike Vincent Jr. They're 4 wide off the course. He nearly hooks the 0-2, and around going 1 car. That's Blake Beauville, the defending winner of this race, going broadside of the track. Doesn't look like there's too much damage on that ABC Supply Co. Viper. But both drivers second in the point standings going around to the opening lap. And it looks like there might be a little bit more damage internally than we anticipated, as the 78 of Mike Vincent Jr. and Blake Beauville both going back into the 21st positions. Field goes through the downhill section in through the hairpin going towards the light bulb. First on the gas right now is that 3 machine of John Andrews, but he has got a rear view mirror full of that number 12 machine. That's Michelle Gavinou. Still looking for her first win for the sophomore driver on the FMGTC. Roberto Crown Jr. up 5 spots already in 8th. Owen Miles up to 4th behind the 3rd place driver, Roberto Crown Jr. And everybody now going single file, nose to tail for pretty much the entire time being. Owen Miles rounding out the top end of the field right now as the field will race underneath the Bridgehampton Bridge. Everybody zooming under the Bridgehampton Bridge, 2 and 3 wide towards the back, and you see the top 2 drivers in the back. Mike Vincent Jr. has gotten around the number 11 car, nearly a couple other drivers off track. That was Esteban Lasserre. A little bit squirrely there in that Rain-X 66 car. So running order is as follows on your screen, and everybody pretty much running single file, but it's John Andrews showing the way in that ace number 3. The Jaguars running 1-2, Toyota in 3rd, and then it's all Corvettes behind these guys, with the exception of Skylar Taylor, trying to crack inside the top 5 in the 45 A&W car. And that is really, really good news for Aguirre Sada. That poor start that Mike Vincent Jr. got to. As we take a look at the replay now, it looks like Vincent Jr. just really wide off the racetrack going into Hanskin for the first time. He was fortunately able to keep that 78 car straight. Same could not be said for Blake Beauville, who did a couple of 360s right off the gun. And Sato looking to take this points lead in the final 2 races of the season at Autumn Hill and Riverside. Trying to become yet another winless champion here on the North American Sim Racing Network. A little bit wide through the corner for the 49. Angel Gutierrez also hanging a couple of rear-end tires off of the corner there in turn 2, and Sato will lose a couple of spots there to the 20 of Sebastian Palmer. Palmer, who knows that Autumn Hill race last year very well, it still gives him nightmares, but he was able to get the job done earlier on this season at the Old Spice Wisconsin Grand Prix at the Old Spice High Endurance Raceway for his 2nd ever win on the FMGTC. Doesn't look like a championship is really in the cards for this season. He does sit within 100 points of Aguirre Sato, and right now is ahead by 5 points of the 49 machine, but he needs a lot more points to be able to get up in championship contention. Right now, the last car in GT Le Mans that is within a full race's worth of points of the race leader right there, the 49. Zachary Fitzwater trying to make some headway in the back there in the 62 car. Fitzwater, like we said, starting in 21st, has made his way plus 6 positions up to 16th. Make that 15th on the grid. Riley Sampson right now on the tail end of this GTLM field. He is fighting with the 90 of Angel Gutierrez. And back in here, it's Juan Rodriguez looking for 2 wins in a row. In that number 75 car, he's got the race lead away from Carson Miller right off of the start. The winner of the last race here is Miller will go wide through Hanskin in turn 2, able to keep it straight. Oh, that's one car. Daniel Bouchard off track. He's able to hold on to that Coke Zero number 8 car. And he is going to lose a lot of spots as Mike Vincent Jr. trying to cut his way through this GT Daytona grid. But what was an incredible start to the season now going sideways here over these last 6 months, as Daniel Bouchard continues to trend in the wrong direction for GT Daytona, the only multi-time winner for GT Daytona this season. Currently sitting 18th in the point standings, and his bad luck continuing here at Bridgehampton, I should say. Riverside is not for about 2 months' time. I'll take a look and see what happened to the 8 car. He got loose off the front end of somebody. Right now, all 42 cars still in the race here. As we begin lap number 5, John Andrews has led all 5 so far for GTLM. But not letting him out of the gun sights there is Michelle Gavin, who just trying to drive that Granger Westward number 12 machine hard into the corner. Has caught up to the back end of the 3 machine a couple of different times through this run. It's Esteban Lasser, your other winner at the Old Spice Raceway, falling back in the field, losing touch with the back end of the 11 cars. Some more cars going in and out of the racing groove, one of them being Aaron Abel, who did not have a good qualifying run. Qualified 16th on the grid and currently sits pretty deep in the field. I actually believe he's up a position, up to 15th for GT Daytona. Of course, some of the other drivers up in here for GT Daytona. The aforementioned 26 machine of Dylan Matthews right now, trying to run in a decent spot. Stano Georgi has been surpassed by the 75 of Juan Rodriguez. Trying to make some headway back into this battle is the 26, and same thing for Connor Monica, who is essentially out of the championship fight, 189 points behind Dylan Matthews coming into this afternoon. But he's not mathematically eliminated just yet, with 3 races to go, including today, as Georgi tries to cut underneath the 75, trying to track back into this battle for GT Le Mans. This could be dangerous here for Rodriguez, who will let the O2 car go by, and it's a good thing he did. Oh, he got tight out of the corner, and Rodriguez will pull the crossover going through turn 3. He'll get back in front of that Budweiser O2, and it has been an arduous season, to say the least, for Dano Georgi ever since dominating the first quarter of the race in Mexico City. Was knocked out of that contest, and it has just been not what you want from that 0-2 team all season long, but they look to bounce back here. Potentially not today, but over these next couple of races, and of course, on the MBCS side of things, trying to get their second win of the season for American Motorsports. Of course, your Oregon winner on the Mission Barbecue Cup Series side of things has not been able to find a whole lot of success on the road courses just yet. Of course, he did snag a handful of wins last season, but here, switching over to the Budweiser O2 Toyota team. The Technical Alliance with Caleb Rose's program doesn't look like that's paid dividends just yet. He is currently trapped well behind his GTLM counterparts, so we begin lap number 7. Sideways off of the corner, that was Bryce Segan in the 8 car. Trying to catch up to the back end of the 45 of Skylar Taylor, but right now the race lead has remained unchanged for both classes in the opening 6.5 laps. It's John Andrews who won that race in the last couple of laps at Watkins Glen. Then the next day proceeded to win the MBCS race at the Coca-Cola Super Speedway in relatively dominating fashion for that race to get 2 wins in a row. And the first driver in channel history to get 2 wins in a row across both series that we ran so far, of course, with the Loves American Truck Series coming back into action here in just a couple of weeks' time. See if John Andrews potentially has a chance to get a couple of wins there. Of course, he's owning a truck team, and no word if Fonny is going to be driving the truck himself. We do know that his development driver, Lauren Martinez, will be piloting the number 57 Harbor Freight Ford F-150. So Andrews right now running a really good race. Loose out of the corner, Skylar Taylor, and nearly bumps into the 8 of Egan. Bryce doing a really good job planning that Black Army number 8 Corvette into the corner. He'll take that 5th spot away from Skylar Taylor. Nobody knocked out of the race just yet. All 42 cars are still on track, but that could very well change the longer we get into these runs, and we've only had a handful of incidents in this race so far, nothing too big. This is going to be the biggest storyline we'll follow all afternoon long. That number 78 machine trying to cut his way through this field, and he has got a log jam of GT Daytona cars to try and get around. Kasumi Takashi, the first one on the chopping block for the 78 of Vincent Jr. Vincent trying to find a way around all of these drivers, been able to make his way through about half of the grid in the opening 8 laps of this race, and he currently sits pretty far behind the last GTLM car in line, Riley Sampson. Sampson, that last time by, was about 10 seconds off the back end of John Andrews, and Vincent Jr. 11 seconds off of the pace right now of this GTLM field, but he's been able to get around Takashi. Next up, he's trying to get around Michael Brown. Brown, the defending winner of GT Daytona. Pretty much out of the championship fight, 229 back as he goes off course in the 25 cars. Same thing with Nathan Buchanan. Buchanan able to make an impressive save on the Menards number 99. We'll have to see if he will be back in the driver's seat for the Loves American Truck Series, as Vincent Jr. will duck underneath of the Mustang. He will do so nice and easily, trying to get around that number 99 car and back in here. Still a decent battle for second place, third place I should say, for GT Daytona. Of course, the opening stint of Bridgehampton, like we have seen in the past, nothing really much to write home about. Once you get out of those opening set of corners, everything really dies down. It's just the first 2 laps when everybody is bunched together, going through Hansgen for the opening time, and we saw a couple of cars spinning around. We've seen some cars going off track in the opening handful of laps. But once these BF Goodriches start to wear down, that's when these drivers begin to chill just a little bit out here. And it's exactly what we are seeing. It's pretty much the whole field running single file for the most part. Seb Palmer and the big staple, Nathan Stapleton, trying to have a go at it. Nagira Sato has dropped back a couple of spots in the 49, started this race in 9th. Saw him as high as 5th at one point, but has dropped back one position short of where he started. Reggie Fogelman has taken that opening's position away in P9. Now he's under fire from Caleb Rose, who desperately needs a good point run this afternoon. If he wants to stay in championship contention, we are touting Rose as a dark horse for this championship. Going into that race in Mexico City, and after he won that race, thought he was going to have a good shot of the championship. But of course, a rough outing at Canadian Tire, and even a rougher outing at Watkins Glen. And just a couple of DNFs in a row over these last couple of races, he has fallen all the way down to 9th in the point standings, 165 back of the 49. Trying to make up for that here. Again, it's a very, very long race here at Bridgehampton, 84 laps. Which is about 250 miles. 240 miles, I should say. 239 and a half to be specific. Still, it's a very long race. A lot can happen mechanically. A lot can happen physically on the racetrack. And one of those things happening is a lead change. Michelle Gavineau has gotten around the 3 of John Andrews. We've got our first lead change of the afternoon in either class, as Gavineau has gotten around that number 3 car. Got around that number 3 machine quite a while ago. 2 laps led already for Gavineau. These top 2 starting to pull away a little bit from Roberto Crown Jr. Crown Jr. a 2 3/4 back. Crown Jr. trying to go 2 for 2 here at Bridgehampton, one of his favorite tracks on the schedule. Won the race here last year, representing the NOS Energy Drink Company, flying their colors, and now he's got the Great Clips colors. A little bit of a throwback to his Mission Barbecue Cup Series car from a couple of seasons ago. Crate Clips machine looking real fast to begin this race. He's able to clock in a quarter of a second on the back end of the leaders. Gavinu a little bit wide through the corner. Way wide, going Owen Miles, and that's going to be another spot for Bryce Egan. To pick off away, he is now up to 4th, and Taylor swings wide of the corner in turn 3. Fortunately, did not clip the right rear quarter panel of that 59 car. Everybody will continue to remain straight, but Bryce Egan has been picking these drivers off one at a time, and he has been utilizing that inside lane. Here, Bridgehampton, for a driver that has never raced in these cars. Here on the North American Sim Racing Network, that is some veteran talent to be able to plant that Black Army Knights Corvette into the inside corner of Turn 2 consistently. To be able to pick up quite a few spots already, plus 6 on the pylon so far after starting this race in 10th. Starting this race in 9th, excuse me, so plus 5 on the pylon, but nonetheless, he's made his way inside the top 4. He's trying to track down the leaders who have pulled a little bit of ways away from this mini 4-car pack in line with each other, and Crown Jr. trying to reel in the 2 leaders who he's within a second and a half that last time by. This time by the top 2 on top of one another. He's down to a second. So Crown Jr. trying to make this a 3-car battle for the race lead, and John Andrews trying to swoop his way for the race lead. Makes contact with Gavinu. Here comes Crown Jr. And a 3-way battle for the top spot in GT Le Mans is out in front of us right now. And back out in front. John Andrews, the pole sitter, was able to get around Michelle Gavinu as Gavinu was wide through the corner. And Crown Jr. now on the back end of that number 12 machine, and now Gavinu starting to fight a little bit of a 2-front war. Trying to be aggressive on that 3, but also trying to play the defense for the 33. So we go back in here for GT Daytona, a little bit more cars swinging wide through Hansgen. Troublesome turn number 2. Will be Calamity Corner all afternoon long. Mike Vincent Jr. has caught up to the GT Daytona race leader. Akira Sato and Caleb Rose have fallen way back in here for GT Le Mans. They are all the way towards the tail end of the field. That's good for Vincent Jr., but it is great for Zachary Fitzwater, 85 behind. Number 49 car. Fitzy trying to make his way towards the front. We'll check up in here and see how the 78 car will get around the 75. It's got to be careful trying to get around the race leader for GT Daytona, Rodriguez. Trying to hold on to that spot. We'll go back in here as the leaders will go through here, and Fitzwater gets run into by the 2 of Monaco. Those cars keep it straight, fortunately enough. The GT Daytona field comes screaming in through Hansgen. Both cars will swing wide through the corner. But now the 78 of Vincent Jr. is clear of GT Daytona traffic. But he is trying to catch up to the back end. This GT Le Mans field, and he is quite a ways away off the back end of Dano Georgi, who was caught to the tail end of this GTLM field here on lap number 14. Georgi, 14 back of the race leaders, and nearly 9 seconds back is Mike Vincent Jr., so he's got some hauling to do to catch up to the tail end of this GT Le Mans field. But back out front, it is continues to be right now a 2-way dogfight as Crown Jr. has backed off just a little bit in that 33 car. These top 2 continuing to swap the race lead. They're on top of one another down through this mega drafting zone, heading towards turn number 2. This time it's a 12 that swings wide. Contact made, and Egan off track. Can he save it? He cannot. He is off towards the woods. He's trying to gather it back up, trying to get back onto the track. It doesn't look like he's got any sort of damage, but he is going to lose a ton of spots in the 8 car. And what was looking like a promising day for the Army Black Knights Corvette quickly going down the tubes. But fortunately enough, he is still in the race, and Vincent Jr. trying to pick off another spot. As we take a look and see what happened, got loose out of the corner, made some contact with, I believe, the 59. And that'll put Bryce Egan all the way back in the 20th position on the pylon, and that is such a tough break for that number 8 car who was running in 4th at the time. Fortunately, was able to stay in the race as we lost him in the fall foliage for a couple of brief moments. He'll fall back to 20th as we're about approaching the midway point through this opening set of pit stops. And it's John Andrews who has shown the way for the majority of this race, and now with Egan going into the woods, it's broken this second pack up just a little bit here, and it's now a 3-car breakaway for the race lead in GT Le Mans. And back in GT Daytona, it's pretty much business as usual. Juan Rodriguez with a wide gap over Carson Miller, who is now under fire from Connor Monaco. The 2 front row starters for GT Daytona now nose to tail going through Hanskin. We'll see who will go wide, and they both take a relatively similar line going through turn number 2. Way off track is Matt Lagasse. Lagasse, Alexander Rowe, Ryan Durrani, and Aaron Abel also hanging a couple of rear end tires off of the Hanskin turn. But will remain straight for the time being. Igor Barretto's number 14 machine back in here, trying to make some headway. Barretto's number 14, remember his team, the most recent winners over on the Mission Barbecue Cup Series side of things. Of course, these drivers will... We're with Mitchell Collins and Igor Barretto getting a 1-2 finish at the Ricky Raceway last Saturday night. Of course, tomorrow evening, all the MBCS drivers will head back to the Gateway of the West, to the Gateway International Raceway for the Budweiser Propane 400. Kicking off here shortly, Riley Sampson trying to get an early start towards Gateway by wrecking his car. Fortunately enough, the last winner here on the FMGTC, able to make a great save in the 36 car. Sampson chomping at the bit to potentially get back in championship contention with 3 races to go. Same thing for quite a few drivers, trying to get one last win. The final 3 races for the MBCS, and the final 3 races here this afternoon. Bradley Ream right now second in the championship fight, if I'm not mistaken, after a really solid race at the Ricky Raceway. Of course, all these drivers trying to track down the 31 of Campbell Marsh, and we'll see what they'll be able to do tomorrow night. We do know that Brennan Wilmington sits on the pole position in the number 62 car. He currently runs 3rd in the point standings. Could Brennan Wilmington potentially become another winless champion like Campbell Marsh is trying to do? Again, the amount of parity that we have had this season for the Mission Barbecue Cup Series, and a lot of the front runners for the championship have not won, but they have been scarily consistent, like we have seen here on the FMGTC, where there is just as much parity, but has been sheer domination out of Mike Vincent Jr., Aguirre Sato, and Zachary Fitzwater at times. Fitzwater, the highest running driver of the trio, trying to find his legs up in here, currently running just outside of the top 10, running P11 in the 62. Sato runs quite a few positions back there in the 49, in 19th, 18th I should say. Fastest lap of the race for GT Le Mans going to Skylar Taylor right now. 1 minute 23.276 second lap, and then Juan Rodriguez, no surprise to see the man with all the clean air out in front of him, nearly. Actually, the only GT Daytona driver with a sub 125 second lap. Carson Miller right in tow behind him in that department, but no pit stops have been on the board just yet. and Rodriguez trying to stave off that number 72 car as those two continue to try and fight for this race lead. Carson Miller still looking for his first win here in the FMGTC. Had a decent run at Daytona before things went awry late in the contest. Same thing with Connor Monaco. And looking to have a consistent run to the end was Dylan Matthews. Matthews was last year's championship favorite in that number 26 UPS Freight Mustang. And that Mustang just trying to avenge last year with a good championship run will surrender a spot to one of her former championship rivals, Logan Alexander, 80 points back of GT Daytona. Of course, it is a complete crapshoot over in GTD, like we said on the top of the show. Matthews with only a 40-point lead over Blake Beauville, Brooke Paquette, who right now is running just behind Dylan Matthews by a handful of spots, 45 back. Aaron Abel also in the title fight. Same thing with Lasser, Miller himself, Lozano, Alexander, and Colin Bear. 9 drivers in GT Daytona, all within the same amount of striking distance for this championship lead. About 2 3/4 of a race to go. "19 laps are behind us here. In case you were just tuning in, I'd like to first and foremost welcome everybody that's just tuning in to the Long Island Fall Classic here for race number 10. The 2025 FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship, live from the fall foliage-covered Bridgehampton Racecourse. Bridgehampton Race Circuit, I should say. Nonetheless, a beautiful race circuit. Getting a good look at the fall foliage all around this track. Here on Long Island, still some sand here and there. But nonetheless, a beautiful backdrop, and a beautiful backdrop to the next couple of races here. Of course, we will go to Autumn Hill for the Schuylkill, rather the Spam Grand Prix of Schuylkill, coming at you on Thanksgiving morning here on the North American Sim Racing Network. That, of course, will be the covered in fall foliage as well, and this will be the last, least chaotic race we will have on the docket for this season. So like we saw last year, Autumn Hill with all the championship aspirations for these drivers. It's Bruno Giacomo having some trouble on the back. All the drivers with championship aspirations. Autumn Hill got the best of them. And we'll see what these guys will be able to do in about 1 month's time. But I think it's safe to say that these drivers are not going to be thankful to be racing with one another, and they're not going to be thankful unless they got a good points day, or for those outside the championship hunt, a nice checkered flag like we saw for Skylar Taylor and Juan Rodriguez in last year's contest. And the pit window here at Bridgehampton opening up every 34 to 36 laps, so we should only see a 2-stop race, which we typically see on these shorter races. Again, that second set of pit stops, as per usual, going to be the most crucial, and getting out of the pit road and starting to wear in your tires going to be the other crucial factor. And everybody on fresh tires going down to the Hanskin corner. We have seen that completely jump the rails for a lot of these drivers. Andrews in the 3 machine, continuing to dominate, has led 17 laps so far this afternoon. Starting to lead. Starting to trail back a little bit was Gavinu in the 12. Crown Jr. trying to post up on the back end, that 12 machine. It's Giacomo, currently the last car on track. All 42 cars still out here albeit some a little bit more damage than others. There's a move down to the inside there out of the 9. That's Colin Bayer trying to get around Matt Legacy. Those two sliding through Hanskin. Able to get through nice and orderly, and now a little bit of a battle up in here for the GT Daytona race lead. It's Juan Rodriguez who took the race lead away from the number 72 car right on the opening lap of the race. Now under fire from said pole sitter as Miller looks for his first win in a Grand Touring car. He's got 1 win on the channel so far, that coming from a caution-ended race at the Nazareth Speedway a couple of months ago in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Winner of the Tasty Cake 400 looked like he was going to be a championship favorite going into the chase. That unfortunately did not play dividends. He is currently on the brink of being eliminated after a race at Ricky. That did not go his way. He's trying to fight for these final 3 races here for the Mission Barbecue Cup Series, and he's trying to fight for another championship here. He is one of many drivers trying to fight for 2 championships. One of them is Riley Sampson, who, like we established, has fallen back a little ways on the grid. Sampson, 94 back of Sato coming into this race. Does sit 2 positions ahead of Sato, so he would chip into that points lead by just a little bit, but he needs a lot to go his way if he wants to have a fight at this championship. Same thing for Caleb Rose, who currently sits 165 back of the 49. He's fighting for 2 championships. Brendan Wilmington, the boss man over on the Mission Barbecue Cup Series side of things, trying to bring home Pacific Racing their first championship as an organization, and the Colonel just trying to have good couple of final, well, decent runs over these next couple of races in both series. Trying to bring home the bacon. And the same thing goes for Bradley Ream in car number 40. Aside from Campbell Marsh, he's been the most dominant driver on the Mission Barbecue Cup Series circuit. Leads the series with 3 wins on the season at Diamond Ridge, Charlotte, and Dover. Right now, a little bit outside the championship fight here, 135. Back behind Aguirre Sato, but currently sits inside the top 10. Whereas Sato, right now, 17th. So Ream's trying to play a nice and slow burn strategy, but again, with 3 races to go, you can't exactly play the slow burn with perfection. So Ream trying to get the job done in the 40 here this afternoon. Some other drivers as Matt Legacy down the pit lane. Looks to be some damage. No, the left-hand side of that 60 machine looks to be nice and orderly. Bruno Diacomo coming down the pit lane as well. It looks like those drivers off cycle. We'll see if anybody else will peel off here. About 10 laps until we anticipated these drivers to come down the pit lane here. A couple of GT Daytona cars coming in off cycle for the time being right now. Diacomo is out. Bryce Egan trying to catch up to these GTLM drivers, and the same thing for the 78. Mike Vincent Jr. cannot wait for this pit cycle to come here for these GTLM cars. Carson Miller has dropped a couple of spots back in the number 72. Miller now under fire from Dylan Matthews, your Daytona 500 champion from February. And Miller continuing to hemorrhage spots in the 72. He's fallen all the way down to 5th. He might fall outside of the top 5. Matthews being very aggressive, turns the 72 car around. Off track goes the 711 car, and somehow is able to make an incredible save. Carson Miller, the wheelman. I thought he was going to be dead for sure going into the woods, but somehow got control of that machine, and that Mustang was able to only lose a couple of spots and remain in the race. And Dylan Matthews was being aggressive, and If Miller is able to get back up to that 26 car, I don't know what kind of repercussions those are going to be as we get another look at it. And what an incredible save out of Carson Miller. If he somehow ends up winning this championship, that'll be the moment right there where things definitely change in his favor. He did lose quite a few spots in the 72, but it definitely could have been a lot worse. In fact, I think he only fell back 6 spots compared to where he was a lap ago. He was all the way up in 25th, so that is 4th on the pylon. And has only fallen down about 8 spots to where he was. And could pick off these drivers if they go sideways like they do here. And Miller has got a fast Mustang underneath of the hood, and he is gunning it right now in that 72. He's no worse for wear out of probably the best save you will see all season long, at least in GT Daytona for GTLM. Some pretty good saves as well, but none as good as that. A couple more drivers down in the pit lane here on lap number 27. Tatiana Nagora and Alex Lozano down into the pit area. So you see all the tire tracks back in here, just how much of a troublesome turn 2 the Hanskin corner has been. Drivers getting loose, drivers spinning out, one car going off track. That's Matt Lagasse with another impressive save. If it wasn't for Miller's save a couple of laps ago, that would have been the save of the afternoon. Somehow remained on track. Didn't get that American Motors, or that USA American flag car into the fence. And didn't lose any spots for the time being. He is 1 lap down based on pitting a little bit earlier than everyone else. But a great save out of the New Jerseyan. And here we go. Aguirre Sato short pitting here on lap number 27. And Carson Miller nearly got ran over by the 2 of Monaco. So 27 laps into the race, Aguirre Sato and Eric Monaco will come down. And for Sato, I don't know if he could have maybe waited another lap. Because right now, if he's able to go 28 laps on a run, that'll put him 1 lap short at the end of this race. Same thing for Monaco. I believe they might try and stretch it out over this next potential set of laps, but here we go. More drivers coming down. Zachary Fitzwater, the man in the penultimate position in the point standings for Mike Vincent Jr., as well as the 8 of Bryce Egan down the pit lane here on lap number 28. So if these drivers are only able to do about 28 laps, that's going to bring the fuel question into effect completely. But I have full confidence that these drivers are just short pitting here on this opening run to get back as many spots as they can. These were 3 drivers relatively towards the tail end of the field as Fitzwater forces Monaco to go wide. Connor is able to make an impressive save there in the 21. These guys coming off the pit lane in side-by-side traffic, especially with these slower Daytonas like that right there. Dylan Matthews gets turned off of turn number 2. Doesn't look like there's any damage on the UPS Mustang, but that was karma right there. And going by, waving out the window, was Carson Miller. And this was the race where things started to go south for Dylan Matthews 1 year ago. And things just barely able to avoid disaster there. Doesn't look like there's any damage on the UPS Freight Cobra. We'll take a look at it now, but my goodness me. Karma coming into effect and not even an entire fuel run later. And here we go, the bulk of the GT Le Mans field coming down, this time by Caleb Rose, Nathan Stapleton, Seb Palmer, Justin Williams, and Michael Lewis. These last 2 drivers, first time we're mentioning them here this afternoon. They'll make their way off for the pit lane. Zachary Fitzwater comes screaming by. Trying to catch up to these guys up in here, running this high lane. Trying to catch up to the tail end here. Meanwhile, pretty much the entirety of the GT Daytona field coming down the pit lane. Focusing with Aaron Abel and the 26 of Dylan Matthews. Here come the GTLM leaders, all in line down the service area. Skylar Taylor will also peel off. Same thing with Owen Miles. And everybody will be coming down the pit lane. It's a very tight pit lane. Ryan Durrani nearly got run over by Skylar Taylor. But here we are, first 3 cars in line for GT Le Mans, all coming down the service area, putting 26 a lap down for the time being. And now we're going to have to see how that long run will play in for these drivers that decided to come down a little bit early. Looks like Aguirre Sato. Not sure where Sato is on the racetrack in comparison to these drivers. But out and away, that number 3 machine. Dominant driver of the afternoon. 25 laps led for John Andrews. He's out first. Gaffneau out second. Out third, the 33 of Crown Jr. They're out of trouble. Some more drivers screaming around. The car is trying to get out. Fitzwater is in the grass. Nearly runs into the back end of Seb Palmer. Able to put on the brakes in time, but now these drivers with fresh rubber think they can go through the corner a little bit more aggressively, and they can. Sato, who is on the oldest tires of everybody, falling back so it didn't look like the undercut was the way to go. And if Sato is only able to do a handful of laps, about 27 laps on a tank of gas, that is going to spell the end of his competitive afternoon. If he is going to have to come back down the pit lane one more time. More drivers coming down the pit lane. One of them was Juan Rodriguez. He is out and away in the 75 for GT Daytona. Looks like up to third might be Brooke Paquette. It's actually going to fall back a little ways away. I think that 71 car of Logan Alexander will be up to second. Nathan Buchanan looks to shoot up to third. Oh, Legacy way out of control, able to hold on to it. Still a wee bit out of control, but is able to keep his wheels underneath of him. You got Dylan Matthews right behind the 60 car. Matthews will shoot down to the inside. Going through the Colasante corner and into Echo Valley. Heading towards the Valley of the Lefts. On the left-hand side of that 26 is Legacy, but Matthews with a much stronger Ford Mustang. Gets around the 26 car with ease. And will take that position away. Connor Monaco right now runs in third. Is he on the tail end of the lead lap? We'll wait and see once timing and scoring will reset here. Connor Monaco at the start-finish line is your new race leader. So Monaco with a good pit stop. Remember, I believe he came down a little bit early. So he'll be under fire from the 75. This is not going to be every lap led for Juan Rodriguez. So it's a lead change in GT Le Mans. More cars going around. Alex Lozano broadside to the field. Got some front end damage on that 43 car. One car is off of the track. Not sure who that is. I'll wait to see it in a moment. So they emerge from the abyss. Who is it? It's Tatiana Nagora with some rear end damage in that number 22 car. She is off track up the hill and will come down the track right in front of the GTLM field. Has got to be careful navigating down the hill. And is able to steer clear out of the way from the GTLM leaders. And how about Zachary Fitzwater? A nice little short pit there. Is able to springboard the 62 machine up inside the top 5 for the first time this afternoon. Again, Fitzwater, 85 back of Sato. Sato right now with their issues back in 18th, and still in 21st is Mike Vincent Jr. So right now, I don't believe it would be enough for Fitzwater to get the race lead, or the points lead. Actually, it might. Fitzwater, position he is running right now in 5th. That would give Fitzwater 80 points. I'll give Fitzwater 80 points, and then Sato right now running in 18th as Lozano and Nagora back down the pit lane. Those two pitted on the same lap together on lap 28. They're back down the pit lane here on lap number 33 as we approach the midway point through the race. Sato right now runs in 18th. That would be 15 points for Sato, and then for Mike Vincent Jr., he would get a meager 1 point. And that would put Fitzwater 20 points back of Aguirre Sato going into Autumn Hill. So if you're Zachary Fitzwater, you're just trying to keep running this strategy, and you're looking for a nice top 5 finish in that 62 car. John Andrews has caught up to lap traffic. Blake Beauville, the winner of this race last year, first one to be on the chopping block. Andrews trying to move to the inside of that ABC Supply Co. 11 car. Went around the racetrack on the opening lap of the race. Has not been able to recover yet. Same thing for Bruno Diacomo and the 1 machine. .12 car trying to get around the lap traffic as well. And Gavinu's got to be careful getting around this 1 car going into turns 1 and 2. 3 machine will get around Diacomo with ease. Does a 12, try to bite off down the inside, and around goes the 1 car. Diacomo broadside on the racing groove, backing up right in front of Sebastian Palmer. Palmer will hit the 1 car broadside. And that'll be our first 2 casualties of the race, and Sebastian Palmer snowplowed and destroyed in that Napa 20 car. And that's going to be 4 extra points for Mike Vincent Jr. And there was absolutely nowhere to go for Sebastian Palmer, who T-boned the Bardol number 01 machine. You'll see it on your screen. And like we said, that 12 car, got to be very careful getting around the stricken 001. Was not careful. Diacomo goes sideways and right into the path of the 4th place driver. And what was looking to be a promising day for Sebastian Palmer will essentially knock his title hopes out going into the track where they were officially dashed last season, and that is heartbreak for that number 20 car of no fault of his own. And I think Zachary Fitzwater was thanking his lucky stars that he was 1 position shy of having his best shot at getting back into the championship fight. Dashed away, and Sebastian Palmer will bear that cross. He is knocked out of the race. I imagine the 1 of Bruno Diacomo will also retire from the race. So we'll have our 2 21st finishers for both classes. And that smoking Chevrolet Corvette number 20 Napa machine will be done for the afternoon. I believe Diacomo will be as well. Now they'll try and repair that car. To what avail, I'm not sure. Juan Rodriguez back out in front. He's gotten around the 21 of Connor Monaco. Runs in 2nd, a good point today so far for the 71 machine of Logan Alexander. It's ultimately an engine clutch that destroyed the engine for Sebastian Palmer, but it might as well be in anything that you could have imagined. And now the top 2 in a dogfight now for the race lead in GT Le Mans. Gavinu trying to catch up to the 3 machine. Some cars kicking up dust in the back. That's Esteban Lasser. Next one in line to be put a lap down, and there's the gap between GT Le Mans and GT Daytona here on the 36th lap of the race. So for Palmer, that'll essentially knock him out of championship contention with 2 races to go. He'll still be mathematically able to win the championship with a couple of astounding runs at both Riverside and Autumn Hill. Fitzwater will get around Blake Beauville, the lap down car, trying to set his sights on 3rd, but I think he's content right now trying to run in a solid 4th position, and that's an additional 5 points for Fitzwater as well. So not much changing between the top 3 in points with that Palmer DNF, as pretty much everybody in line will gain an extra handful of spots and a handful of points as well. But it's John Andrews, the pole sitter, has dominated this race so far. That's his 32nd lap lead of the afternoon as he catches up to the tail end of GT Daytona traffic. One of them being Matt Lagasse, nearly gets into Alexander Rowe. Lagasse has been probably the race's biggest wild card so far. And Andrews is potentially going to have a tough time getting around that 60 car, but this is the entire tail end of the GT Daytona field that John Andrews is closing in fast on. He is about 10-15 car lengths back of the number 66 of Lasser. Can he hold on to this race lead? Can he hold on to his race car for his 2nd win of the season? Right now, 2 races worth of points back of Sato. Could potentially get up within 1 race's worth of points with a dominating run this afternoon. But again, this race is not won in 37, 38 laps. It is won in 84 laps. You cannot be aggressive with these lap down cars, especially with these GT Daytona cars. We have no idea what's going to happen, and that has always been the biggest draw of the race, when the GTLM leader will catch up to the tail end of the GT Daytona grid. And we're going to see it right here and right now. Lap number 38. This could be the turning point of the race, depending on how aggressive Andrews plays the 66 car going into turn 2. Tries to bite down to the inside. Off track goes Gavinu, and I think Gavinu knows that something could happen. That something is there in the 99. Nathan Buchanan issues in the 99 machine. He went off track. Fortunately enough, it looks like he caught Connor Monaco. The 2nd and 3rd place cars for GT Daytona collide. So Monaco's bad luck streak will continue. Same thing with Nathan Buchanan, as if he didn't have any luck in this series, or they didn't have bad luck in this series, he would not have any luck whatsoever. And that's exactly an issue right there, that why Gavinu was backing off. Would rather try and play defense with a 33 of Crown Jr. than try to go toe-to-toe and play chicken with a couple of lap-down GT Daytona cars, as Andrews has gotten around the 66 of Lasser. Andrews in full command of this race. Came down the pit lane on lap number 30. Is able to make it to the end on only 2 stops. But how worn out will his BF Goodrich's be, and how is he going to be able to navigate around this lap down traffic? Here's as we approach the midway point through this race. Everybody's starting to get antsy with one another. 75 has fallen all the way outside of the points, or the race lead. I believe the race lead now going to the 14. Well, was the 14, now it's the 71 of Logan Alexander. So how about that for Alexander? Alexander, 80 points back of Dylan Matthews, trying to set himself up for a decent championship run going into the penultimate race of the season at Autumn Hill. Now it's a dogfight for the 2nd place spot. Crown Jr. trying to find a way around that 66 of Lasser, and he will. Lasser, does he try to hold the inside going through the light bulb? He will do so, in fact. Crown Jr. trying to get the better run off of the corner, but those two still door to door going up through the East Straight. Crown Jr. will get the run off of the corner, but loses a little bit of time to the back end of the 12. But here we go. Biggest challenge of the afternoon so far coming here on lap number 40. Matt Lagasse, who's been a loose cannon all day long, right now has got his leader of GT-LM right now in the sights. Andrews trying to duck down on the inside, not able to make a move right then and there. I think that was a calculated little bit of a swing and miss from John Andrews. He's right on the back end of the 60, and there he goes. He'll have the preferred line going through Colasante. And Lagasse, who has been fighting a loose setup race car all afternoon long, will submit to the GT-LM leader, and now will fall into the clutches of the second place driver of Gavinu. Gavinu on the backside of the USA Dodge Viper. As we approach the midway point through this afternoon's race. And a lot of lap down traffic right in front of John Andrews. Gavinu trying to get around Lagasse, but that 60 machine holding up the 12. Still trying to find a way around that 60 car. Right on the rear bumper of that Viper is that XKR. This is going to hold up Gavinu to the point where I think a 33 might get a tow going down the front straightaway. Not quite there. Lagasse's still to the outside. Those two side by side. Couple cars going off. Monaco making some contact in front of Andrews. Andrews trying to stay away from a couple of loose cars. That was Durrani and Connor Monaco going sideways. Those two on top of one another as Monaco just trying to steer clear of the three. He will do so, and now this is a really good battle between a lot of lap down cars. Gavinu shoots to the inside of the 21. Trying to catch up back up to that Ace Hardware Jaguar. Couple of Jags running 1-2 for GT Daytona, GT Le Mans, I should say. And it has been a Jaguar-dominated race so far with a Toyota thrown into the mix with Crown Jr. As Crown Jr. now tries to get around Matt Lagasse's number 60 car. And now it's the Waco, Texas native of John Andrews trying to get around the Las Vegan of Ryan Durrani in the Gillette Shave number 16 machine. Andrews to the inside of Durrani. Next time by will be the halfway point through the Long Island Fall Classic. Durrani wide through the corner. Now a little bit of space there between first and second place drivers in GT-LM. And back in here in GT Daytona, Nathan Stapleton running into some issues, but right now they're being led by the 71 of Logan Alexander. So we've got a little bit of breathing room before John Andrews will catch up to his next victim here. But right now, we're going to go ahead and take our only commercial break of the afternoon. John Andrews has dominated his way through GT Daytona, GT Le Mans, I should say. Michelle Gavinu trying to fight around the lap traffic to get behind that number 3. And up in here in GT Daytona, a new leader, Logan Alexander, shows the way for GTD. We'll be back here in just a couple of moments here on the North American Sim Racing's coverage of the Long Island Fall Classic, live from the Bridgehampton Race Circuit.
Ever since we hired Dale Jr. at IHOP, breakfast has been moving fast.
All right, 4 plates of pancakes, gotta serve, table green, go, go, go!
Is that Dale Jr.?
Order for catering? Look, it's pancakes!
Dine-in delivery catering.
Will you sign my pancakes?
Hell no! Get the fuck off the racetrack! You stupid son of a bitch!
We welcome you back to Sag Harbor, New York, as the GT Le Mans race leader John Andrews in the middle of heavy lap-down traffic for the start of the second half of this afternoon's Long Island Fall Classic here at Bridgehampton. Carson Miller going a little wide off track, makes some contact with the 88. And that is a great way to start the second half of this race here on the NASRN's coverage of the Long Island Fall Classic. Trey Wright on the call. 43 laps are behind us here as John Andrews leading the way. Starting from the pole, has led 39 laps so far and nearly averted disaster there as Carson Miller will fall back in the 72. In case you're just tuning in, you've missed quite a little bit here, but not in terms of the carnage. 41 drivers are still on the racetrack. All 21 are still on the track for GT Daytona, and Sebastian Palmer, the only car out of the race. So 20 cars remain on track for GTLM, but of course the top story of the afternoon, Mike Vincent Jr., who's right now trying to claw into the back end of the 49 of Aguirre Sato. Those two, the two leaders in the points for GT Le Mans, struggling throughout the first half of the race. It all started on lap 1 for the outside pole sitter of Mike Vincent Jr. He tries to get around this 49 car, and Aguirre Sato has not had a good last couple of runs. Came down the pit lane early on. Right now sits in the 19th spot. 20th is that number 78 car. Right now, Zachary Fitzwater is sitting in 4th, so Fitzwater would have a chance to take the points lead away. Fitzwater right on the back end of the number 16 machine of Ryan Durrani, but it is lap car after lap car, but cutting his way through this lap down field like a hot knife through butter is John Andrews. Has dominated this race so far. So we look down in here, there is the leader for GT Daytona. Just became the leader a handful of laps ago as Logan Alexander has a fairly sizable lead over the 14 of Igor Barreto, that being about 2 seconds between that Dodge Viper, the factory team of Logan Alexander, and that number 14 machine. It's now under fire from Brooke Paquette, who is looking for a good run. Paquette, 45 points back of Dylan Matthews, who has had an up and down afternoon, has gone around once, but has remained inside the top 10 for GT Daytona. So right now running in the 6th spot for GTD. Nearly a little bit trouble in front of her. Tatiana Nagora hits the 14. Around goes the 14, broadside to the track. Dylan's got to be careful going through Calamity Corner. And this is right in front of everybody up in here for GT Le Mans. The GTLM leaders were flying through the accident scene. And a heavy right side damage for the Valvoline number 14. And that Ford Mustang destroyed for Igor Barreto, as he's now under fire from the 14, or rather the 3. We'll see what happened there, and I think Tatiana Nagora, the lap down car, getting loose with Barreto. Those two go sideways. There's a good save out of Nagora. Barreto losing a ton of time, and now is under fire from the GTLM leader. Can he hold on to that race car? Meanwhile, it is an absolute train back in here between the first and second place drivers for GT Le Mans. Michelle Gavinou has struggled over these last 2 laps, trying to get around the 8 of Daniel Bouchard. It's her main competition all afternoon long, has had no qualms about getting around lap down cars. And Gavinou, finally with a run to the inside of Bouchard, has got to be very, very calculated about getting around this lap down traffic, as everybody, both classes, about telescoping each other right now. Good run through the 12, trying to get around the 98 of Aaron Abel. One car going sideways, nearly going around was Carson Miller in the 72. Miller with a good save in that 7-Eleven machine for the pole sitter for GT Daytona. And trying to catch up to the GT Daytona leaders right now is that number 3 machine, but again, we are nearing our second and final pit stop of the race, coming around to about 35 laps to go here over these next couple of laps. Nathan Stapleton, who had a fuel pump issue under that opening pit stop, right now being shown in the 20th spot for GT Le Mans. Blake Beauville right now has gained a couple of spots after spinning around in the opening lap, but he is out of contention for the race here this afternoon. And Andrews with 2 more lap time cars to go before he gets a little bit of space before reaching the tail end of the top 5 for GT Daytona. Oh, a block to the inside of the, trying to get around the 22 was the 26, and she blocked the GT Le Mans race leader. Andrews is not going to like that. Tatiana Mogagora makes contact, and around goes the 3. John Andrews, the dominant car for GT Le Mans, gets turned by the 22. And he's going to lose the race lead to Michelle Gavin. Can he get back on track nice and orderly? He is still pinned to the outside. And he is hemorrhaging spots like no tomorrow. And that was the biggest moment of the afternoon. And Nagora nearly got run over by the entirety of the tail end of GTLM. So the dominant driver all day in John Andrews was trying to cut down to the inside of the 22, and we know that once he was trying to get around that 26, and when that 26 of Matthews blocked him, that was going to put him in a box, and there was nothing he could do. And John Andrews looks like he will not win this afternoon's race, and that is such a gut punch. We knew this lap down traffic was going to be problematic. And it has been ever so problematic in this race. Skylar Taylor now up to 3rd, a couple of car lengths back off of the 33. And now Michelle Gavinou up to the race lead for the 2nd time today. Has led 5 laps up to this point. Oh, and she goes really wide through the corner. She's got to hold on to it. And she nearly sold the barn there. And that'll give up some time to Roberto Crown Jr., last year's winner of this race in that 33. And again, it is a complete logjam back in here. And there's John Andrews, who fell all the way back to 15th. And he is going to try and claw his way back up here, but it is essentially a Taco Bell toilet. It is a snake of race cars, I should say. All the way up through the millstone, straight through the hairpin, the light bulb. It is just a line of cars up in here, all on top of one another. And this is Grand Touring racing at its finest, where everybody is on top of one another. The 2 classes are sandwiched in between one another, and everybody's on top of one another like they're a deck of cards. And passing is truly an art form, and the chaos can truly commence. And that's what we're seeing here this afternoon, the chaos truly commencing. The dominant driver being knocked out, 43 laps led for John Andrews. Might all be for naught, but we still got a long way to go in this race. And now the 25 gets hooked by the 45. They're both nearly upside down. Skylar Taylor digs in, pirouettes into the air, and that'll be the end of the afternoon for the A&W Jaguar. Those 2 went flying off of the embankment as Taylor very gingerly draws back in. And I thought that 25 car was also going to go upside down. A horrifying crash. And the 3rd place driver now getting taken out as this GT Daytona lap down traffic proving to be absolutely insane. Trying to see where the 25 car ended up. Somehow remains on track after nearly going upside down, and we might have to get a couple of looks at that, as digging into the asphalt and into the sand was Taylor. And that'll take the 45 car out of contention, and that's a heartbreak there. They were running in third. And that is another position improved for Zachary Fitzwater, but Fitzwater has fallen back a little ways away. Fallen back to fifth as Bradley Ream has gotten around him, but now he'll be up to fourth, Ream up to third. More cars going around. That's Juan Rodriguez sideways. He and Kasumi Takashi got together. Rodriguez on the embankment trying to get down, nearly getting run over. Cars are everywhere. The 59 is off track. Owen Miles trying to get around. I think this next set of pit stops can't come soon enough. Somehow Skylar Taylor is still in it, and now Carson Miller is off track once again, along with the two. Everybody flying off track. I cannot believe that Skylar Taylor is somehow in this race after going hard, pirouetting through the sand. And we got 3 wide coming up through here. This is absolute anarchy like we have never seen before in the FMGTC. Again, this is a narrow track with no runoff area. There is nowhere to run for these drivers and nowhere to hide. And everybody, like we said, is on top of everybody. That's why we got 2, 3, 4 wide situations. It is a land rush to get to the front. And these guys all coming down the pit lane at the same time. Oh boy. And Michelle Gavineau underneath of Kasumi Takashi. Might be danger here for the GTLM leader once again. Swings wide through the corner. That'll open the door for the 33. And the battle for the race lead in GT Daytona. It is once again swung in the direction of Brooke Paquette. Paquette leads in GTD, but right now, fourth is still that number 26 car as Takashi runs in third. Second is Logan Alexander. Nathan Buchanan is down a lap, and now the two GTLM leaders on top of one another. 12 of Gavineau trying to get around the 46 of Takashi, and here comes Crown Jr. Roberto Crown Jr. has been waiting in the wings all afternoon long to try and get a chance at getting around this 12 machine for the race lead. And Gavineau, who has struggled to get around lap traffic, continues those struggles right now. And this is going to be a heck of a battle going in through the corner, down the ledge to the inside, the 33. That is coming down the pit lane for a brief moment. Nearly some contact between Ream and Matthews, but here we go. An aggressive block to the inside from Gavineau. Oh, these two, she nearly ran over the 72 of Miller coming down the pit lane. Here we go. Contact between Takashi and Beauville. Rather, I should say Takashi and the 12 of Gavineau. Miller going around, Takashi going around, everybody is around, and Calamity Corner has been turned to. Everybody trying to get around. That was Michelle Gavineau, not Blake Beauville, like we said, but nonetheless, it is a dogfight right now between the top two drivers, and we have got a round of pit stops coming up, but everybody continues to drive like a maniac out here. And you cannot say that this is not entertaining. Holy Christmas. Everybody is on top of everybody right now as Michael Brown continuing to hemorrhage spots. Same thing with Juan Rodriguez, and we have got so many clips to review here. But right now, top two on top of one another, and I think Crown Jr. has the better race car right now. We're about 3 laps away from the pit cycle opening back up here. Roberto swings wide off of the corner, and now Gavineau will come down the pit lane, so here we go. So Gavinou will come down on lap number 53, and is she going to have enough to make it to the end? She is a very, very lonely car down the pit lane. Some more dust kicking up and some more drivers coming down. I still can't get over how Carson Miller nearly got railroaded. Daniel Bouchard off course. Made some contact with Justin Williams, your Denver winner from April. Tatiana Nagora still somehow in this race, is also down the pit lane. So is Kasumi Takashi. Kasumi Takashi down the pit lane. Same thing with Michelle Gavinou, and Gavinou repairing a little bit of damage in that 12 car. But do we see everybody come down the pit lane this time around? Somehow Skylar Taylor is still in. I can't believe it that Skylar Taylor is still in this race, despite landing on the ground and tomahawking into the ground, upside down and flying off an embankment. She is out of contention for the race win. We do know that. But right now, everybody's still fighting like it is the last lap, but it's going to be the last round of pit stops coming here shortly. Crown Jr. creeping up on the back end of this pack. Roberto will zoom past Tatiana Nagora as Nagora will come off the pit lane. Bradley Ream now in second. Nearly got ran off the road by his MBCS owner as Eric Monaco will go around him. So Monaco saying we might be teammates in the Mission Barbecue Cup Series side of things, but we are not teammates here on track. As Ream, as he sees the car, the number and sponsor that he is sponsored by over on the Mission Barbecue Cup Series side, forces him off track, and he is wondering what the hell is going on. Remember, Monaco came down a couple of laps ago, so he has fresh tires and is getting around these cars that have older tires. Trying to get around the second place driver is Roberto Crown Jr. that is yet to make his final pit stop. Alex Lozano will come back down the pit lane. He has been a busy man on the service area. 3 pit stops already. He'll come down for pit cycle number 4. And when does Roberto Crown Jr. come down the pit lane? Will stay on for now. Same thing with Ream and Fitzwater, your podium. No, Fitzwater will make the late rush down into the service area. That is a bold, bold move for Fitzwater. I would have personally gone with the overcut. That seems to be the name of the game so far today. But Fitzwater, ever the crafty, knows that it's a points run and knows that he needs as many points as he can. He knows that you need to throw the kitchen sink right out the window if you need to try and get the job done here. Gavinou back on track. Has fallen back down to 18th on the pylon. And I'm not sure how that undercut is really going to help matters, especially with Crown Jr. dominating in the 33 and everybody's going to be on fresher rubber. We'll wait and see. These guys doing about 14.5 second pit stops on average for... a mechanical issue for Brooke Paquette, the race leader in GT Daytona. She has blown a tire, I believe, in the 31. It is indeed a flat tire. And the race leader and one of the many drivers in championship contention for GT Daytona blows a tire. And she will get a tow as Monaco gets forced offline by Tatiana Nagora. The 2 Pennzoil cars going at it. With 28 laps to go, everybody is... The chaos is here. Not quite in a wreck sort of sense, but in everybody is on top of everybody. We have had a couple of accidents, but none where the drivers have been knocked out. And Bradley Ream off track, nearly got run over by Reggie Fogelman. Ream out and away, trying to see where his pit stop is. He took 4 tires. Ream off and running in the Boston Red Sox number 40 car, and Michelle Gavineau will be behind him. So Gavineau will be up to 4th in the time being, as Zachary Fitzwater was able to leapfrog Bradley Ream. So Fitzy will now go up to 2nd. I'm back in here for Roberto Crown Jr. as well as Tatiana Nagora and Eric Monaco. Crown Jr. will stay out an additional lap as that 31 car continues to get towed. Back to the pit lane. Paquette was towed. And Paquette having the race slip out of their hands and grasping defeat from the jaws of victory. Monaco's got fresh rubber, but he is a lap down, and now how does he play with the GTLM leader? Meanwhile, Justin Williams. So Alex Lozano off track in the 43. Williams down the pit lane, so Roberto Crown Jr. is the last car in line to not come down the pit lane yet for GT Le Mans. Fitzwater will go to 2nd, and if Fitzwater, or if rather as Crown Jr. has any sort of trouble on the pit stop, that would give the race lead to Zachary Fitzwater. So everybody will make their final pit stops of the afternoon. Everybody just trying to make clear of the drivers coming off of the pit lane. Andrews makes contact with Owen Miles, and Andrews is around once again. Owen Miles is around as well. The 59 car swings underneath of our camera, and a bad afternoon will get worse for the 3 machine. And Owen Miles also getting punted around as those two were coming off of the pit lane. It goes sideways together. And Roberto Crown Jr. is down the service area. Now Zachary Fitzwater just now going up through the Eastern Straight. Crown Jr. just now getting into his pit stall. He is taking all 4 tires as Fitzwater underneath the Lawn Bra Bridge. He's on the front straightaway. Crown Jr. getting those right side tires. He is out and away. Fitzwater right now at the front straightaway. Fitzwater's got all the momentum in the world. Crown Jr. will see the 62 car blow past him, and Zachary Fitzwater out front here at Bridgehampton. But how effective are those fresh tires going to be for Crown Jr. is going to be the big question. And actually Nathan Stapleton, who is off cycle with these drivers, now being scored as the race leader. But once Stapleton will come down, that'll give the race lead to Zachary Fitzwater. But how much of an advantage does Fitzy have over Crown Jr.? Rather, how much an advantage does Crown Jr. have over Fitzwater? And now Bruno Diacomo having some issues in the Bardol number 1 car. Some more cars going around. John Andrews cannot catch a break in turn 2. He is off track once again. Diacomo was slow through the corner, but will remain on track for now. And still, 41 cars all remain on track. We have had 1 go upside down. That is still on track somehow. Nathan Stapleton will come down the pit lane. And that'll officially give Zachary Fitzwater the race lead as Bradley Ream cutting to the inside of the 33 of Crown Jr. Those two side by side. And how about Reggie Fogelman up to 4th? It's Ream very close with the 33. And Bradley Ream will take that spot away. And Michelle Gavineau is back up into the hunt. But Gavineau on about 4 lap older tires in the field. I don't know how long Gavineau will be able to hold on, but is taken 4th away from Reggie Fogelman. Right now, Fitzwater 6 2/3 of a second in front of Bradley Ream. Fitzy looking to get his first win of the season. Only one win in the FMGTC. That came last season on the streets of Thornton. Can he get the job done here this afternoon? 25 laps to go, coming around to 24 this time by is Fitzwater. Out front in the Bass Pro Shops number 62, and with all the trouble that both Aguirre Sato and Mike Vincent Jr. have had, this could play right into the wheelhouse of Fitzwater. Vincent Jr. is being able to claw up to 15th and Sato up to 13th. So I don't think it would be enough for Fitzwater to potentially get this race or get this points lead going into Autumn Hill, but it would definitely help him a ton. Does have a little bit of lap traffic to catch up to, not nearly the logjam that we saw earlier, and with time winding down, Fitzwater should be relatively fine as the 45 of Skylar Taylor continuing to try and pick off spots. Taylor right now, trying to see where Taylor is running right now, is Carson Miller back down the pit lane. Taylor running 16th after going upside down, make that 17th. As Bryce Egan will get around the 45, but how about that for a hard charger? I've never seen a car go upside down and then continue on in a race. That's nuts. That's also NR 2003 for you. It's crazy. It is crazy, but we love it. And this is the reason why we love it. Diacomo is down the pit lane. That'll put one car with Zachary Fitzwater. Will put a lap down here shortly, and I believe that 72 car might be finally done for the day. As Carson Miller has gone through the ringer in this race so far. And again, all of our incidents have taken place in turn 2. You've had the odd incident in turn 3, but everything has originated in turn 2. It is Calamity Corner, like, identified here. It's the craziest thing ever. Logan Alexander back to the race lead in GT Daytona, and Dylan Matthews has crept her way to second. She has ran an aggressive race here so far this afternoon. A race that has directly affected a lot of other drivers here. Has had Karma bit her in the rear end and has gone around a handful of times in this race, but has remained strong and is still out to potentially knock out a top 5 finish, potentially a second place finish. That would cement her as the championship favorite going into the penultimate race in about a month and a half at the Autumn Hill Raceway in Schuylkill, Pennsylvania. Can she catch up to the 71 is going to be another thing to potentially consider. And as an engine failure for Carson Miller, that'll take him out of the race. Forgot that Roberto Crown Jr. was not the race leader. That is Bradley Ream, who is 6 and now a quarter of a second back of Fitzwater. So Fitzwater losing a little bit of time to the Boston Red Sox 40 car. But again, Fitzy does have the freshest rubber of any of the GTLM, rather, he has got the oldest rubber of the GTLM cars. So this could potentially play into a decent race for both Ream and Crown Jr. Because remember, Fitzwater came down on lap number 58, I want to say, 58, 59. These guys coming down. We know Crown Jr. stayed out an additional 2 laps, and Ream, I think, has 1 lap fresher tires than Fitzwater. We'll have to see how much Ream is able to close in the back of Zachary, as Fitzy's going to catch up to the back end of Lozano. Lozano has had a tough afternoon like he's been accustomed to, as he will let the GTLM leader go to the inside of him. Next one up to be put a lap down is Brooke Paquette, as Fitzwater Oh, Lozano thinking about the crossover move. He'll go to the inside. Fitzwater loses a lot of time there. And he lost a lot of time to Bradley Ream as well. That time by Bradley Ream closing in by 3/4 of a second. He is going to close in a ton on the back end of Fitzwater. And hold the phone, 21 laps to go. This race is far from over. Fitzwater, who has had a little bit of trouble trying to get around these lap down cars, now facing an issue getting around the 43 of Alex Lozano, and Bradley Ream is up through Echo Valley into the Valley of the Lefts right now. Those two within 5 seconds of one another, and Fitzwater still trying to get around the stricken 43 of Alex Lozano, and he has got a lot more lap down traffic to traverse around before everything is said and done. But Fitzwater with a run to the inside of the 43. Not going to take it. Oh, and I don't know about Fitzwater. He is playing a very dangerous game right now. The Robbie Gordon game with a lap down car. He now cuts to the inside of Lozano. But again, Lozano might try for the crossover move. Going down through the Hansgen turn. Is going to get tight through here. Does he go to the inside? Fitzwater will cut his line. And he's able to finally get around Lozano, put a pick between himself and Ream. But Ream right now just over 3 seconds behind Fitzwater. That's the gap for the race lead. I think Bradley Ream might be in the catbird seat, but to potentially upset Zachary Fitzwater. But again, if you're Fitzy, you would love to get the win. But playing aggressive chicken like that with Lozano, you've got to think about the big picture right now in terms of the championship, because these next two races, they're a wild card tracks to say the least. Autumn Hill, anything can happen, especially right on the start. Autumn Hill is crazy, and Riverside right on the start, forget about it. You want as much of a cushion, or rather you want to be as close to both Sato and Vincent Jr. as you can, because you have no idea, are you going to be in contention for those races? Are they going to be in contention for those races? You don't want to be your own worst enemy. And you don't want to take yourself out. Logan Williams with an issue in the 6 machine. He is down the pit lane, an engine failure for the Muscle Milk Jaguar. And Williams' bad luck will continue. He will look to Autumn Hill to potentially get his first win here on the FMGTC. 19 laps to go in the Long Island Fall Classic. The gap between Fitzwater and Ream stagnating just a little bit at 3.15. And Ream now trying to get around that lap car of Lozano, and a little bit of breathing room right now for Fitzwater. We'll catch up to the back end of Brook Paquette here shortly. And Ream trying to find a way around Alex Lozano and Roberto Crown Jr. Trying to get back-to-back podiums here at Bridgehampton. Just trying to wait in the wings right now. Reggie Fogelman, his best run of the season so far. And for Michelle Gavinou, 9 laps led so far today. Trying to get the job done in that 12 machine, coming around to 18 to go. Ream has gotten around Lozano, but how much did that cost him? Cost him about 1/10 of a second. Fitzwater now has the 31's rear end in his windshield. Crown Jr. now trying to get to the inside of Lozano to stay within striking distance. Zachary Fitzwater just trying to play it smart. It's all you can, but he is just trying to both get around this lap down traffic and do not look in that rear view mirror, because Ream 3 1/4 of a second back of that number 62 car, and he is looking to upset. It has been an incredible season so far for Bradley Ream on the Mission Barbecue Cup Series side. 3 wins on the season, trying to add a FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship win to that roster as well. Also being an owner driver for the Loves American Truck Series here in just a couple of weeks. Fitzwater now within striking distance of Paquette. Maybe not this lap and the upcoming laps. There's the gap right now between Fitzwater and Ream. Down to 3.21. Fitzwater trying to be ginger around this lap down car of Paquette. And then around the 11 of Blake Beauville. I don't think he'll catch up to Tatiana Nagora with 17 to go. But just in case, he'll be gingerly to try and get around these 3 Dodges right in front of him. Both Ream and Fitzwater trying to make stabs at this championship run. Ream, obviously, a little more ways out than Fitzwater, as Bradley sits 135 back of Igor Sato. A good result today would put a dent into that, but Sato has made his way up inside the top 10 for the first time since the opening 10 laps of this race. What can Ream do to try and find any sort of grip in that car as the 2 leaders have stagnated with one another? 39 cars remain on track. Logan Williams, Carson Miller, and Sebastian Palmer all in the garage area with engine issues. The gap now swinging downwards by about 2/100ths of a second. But here we go. For Fitzwater, he is caught up to the rear end of lap traffic. It's not as chaotic of lap traffic as it was before. We saw him struggle to get around the 43 of Alex Lozano. A couple of cars in line up in here in this battle for 4th on back, but right now it is a 3-car battle for this race lead. Fitzwater on the back end of the 31 of Paquette. And Paquette, who's a development driver for Bradley Ream, might make things a little bit interesting for Fitzwater. Fitzy's going to have to earn this spot away from this 31 machine, but Paquette immediately starting to block the 62, going up through the Eastern Straight. Underneath the Lowenbrough Bridge, coming around to 15 laps to go here on Long Island, and Fitzwater going to the inside of Paquette. Paquette does not throw the block. Holding up Fitzwater just a little bit there, but they're still side by side. Does Paquette go for the crossover? Trying to gun for it. Down to the inside she goes. Fitzwater goes wide. Those 2 make contact, and they remain straight. That was nearly the farm being sold for Fitzwater, and that'll bring Bradley Ream within 2 seconds. That might bring Bradley within a second as Fitzwater trying to gun to the inside of the 31. Paquette trying to get the run off the corner. She'll now have the inside lane going up through Echo Valley. Can Fitzwater clear Paquette? Paquette trying to get back around that 62. She's not going to be able to, but that contact between those 2 providing a lot of lost time for Fitzwater, and Ream now within car lengths of Fitzwater. He's about 10 back of the 62. Now does Paquette subside and let her mentor, Bradley Ream, get around her, and Roberto Crown Jr. still waiting in the wings of this mess. 14 to go as Fitzwater, with his closest moment of the race so far, trying to remain in. 3 cars pulling away from one another, 13 seconds ahead of Reggie Vogelman. If somehow all 3 wreck out of this race or spin around but remain in contention, I think they'll have a shot. Now the gap down to a second between Fitzwater and Ream. And Fitzwater still has more lap traffic to navigate around. He's got the 11 of Beauville. But Ream is there. The gap now to a second and a 1400ths. As Bradley Ream, knowing it's crunch time, coming around to the final 10 laps of this race here shortly, and Fitzwater might be in a boatload of trouble. Fitzwater trying to decide what's more important right now, this race win or a good point stay. He's been aggressive getting around these lap down cars, and he might have a little bit of space once he gets around Blake Beauville, but he'll have to navigate around at least 3 more cars, I would say, to the end of this race, and he needs to cleanly get around this 11 car, but Beauville blocking both lanes. Fitzwater trying to get to the inside of Beauville, and here comes Ream. He's now down to 2 car lengths behind the 62. Fitzwater to the inside of that 11 ABC Supply Co. machine. Does Beauville look for the crossover behind Fitzwater? Does Fitzy go wide through the corner once again? Here we are once more. Fitzwater to the inside, and Ream this time will go wide through 2. Ream was a half second behind Fitzwater, and now that gap will be back to about 3/4 of a second. Maybe about a second between Fitzwater and Ream, I would gauge, as Bradley lost a lot of time going through the Hongskin turn. Again, that downhill right-handed set has been the most notorious corner all afternoon long, as every single incident, I believe we have had about 15 or 20, every single incident has been generated in that turn. And Fitzwater just trying to run away, is now Bradley Ream in lap down trouble. He is being held up significantly by this 11 machine. And was Roberto Crown Jr. due to try to get around Ream. Fitzwater starting to set sail, but he'll catch up to Tatiana Nagora. Remember, Nagora has been caught up in her fair share of incidents this afternoon. Ream now around Beauville. Roberto Crown Jr. trying to join the top 2 in that category. He's down to the inside of the 11. Those two side by side. Roberto Crown Jr. has got to be careful. And now Crown Jr. trying to stave an attack on the 40 machine, but now it's back to a 2.5 second lead between Fitzwater and Ream. And meanwhile, back in GT Daytona, haven't checked in on these guys in quite some time. And the reason why is because Logan Alexander kicking tail right here in the 71 machine. Remember, they've got one less lap to do. Of course, he goes wide through the corner and is going to be caught up to by a couple of these drivers, potentially the 26 machine. But it has been an epic battle up in here for GT Le Mans. It's been a back and forth battle all afternoon long. John Andrews still in 15th right now, led 43 laps, who will lock up the most laps led bonus. And Zachary Fitzwater just trying to lead as many laps as he can. He's not going to get the most laps led bonus like you said, but he's trying to lead that most important lap of the afternoon and get a big points payday. So is Bradley Ream, and for Roberto Crown Jr., he's only got 221 points amassed within 9 races ran this season. It has been a horrible season for Roberto Crown Jr. This is the best he has ran all year long. Trying to cut to the inside, nearly lost it there off of the corner. Skylar Taylor runs one lap down the 45 and to come back down the pit lane to repair that machine. Still runs in 18th as the first car off of the lead lap in GT Le Mans. It'll be 10 laps to go, this time by for Zachary Fitzwater. in what has been a gauntlet of a race so far for these GTLM drivers. And for GT Daytona, they have had their fair share of chaos as well, mostly with the back markers, but up in here for GTLM, once again, the front runners that are running into issues. Fitzwater trying to catch up to Nagora, put her a lap down. Same thing with the 1 and the 60. And Michael Brown might also be on that list as well, with 10 laps to go. And if these guys get together up in here, they could potentially slow themselves up to add on to that list of lap down cars that need to be passed. Caleb Rose has gotten around the 71 of Alexander, so now that gap between Matthews and Alexander does not include any picks. Alexander, however, about 5 seconds ahead of Dylan Matthews and runs fairly comfortably in that department. And here we go. Nagora will shut the door on Fitzwater and the battle is on. Bradley Ream back underneath of a second behind that 62, and Fitzwater continues to struggle around lap down traffic. Three-way battle for the race lead here with 10 laps to go at Bridgehampton, and the gloves are coming off. Fitzy trying to go to the inside of the 22, and here comes Bradley. He's right on the back end of Fitzwater, half a car length off of that Corvette. It has been a Jaguar-dominated race up until now. 2 Corvettes and a Toyota ready to tangle for this race win, coming around to 9 laps to go. Fitzy trying to desperately find a way around Nagora. Ream holding on for right now. Nobody willing to make a move just yet, and Ream biding his time. 3 cars all on top of one another, and Fitzwater will go to the inside. He's got Ream in tow. Ream right behind Fitzwater. There's nose to tail heading towards turns 1 and 2. Same thing with the 33. Does Bradley make his move here? Here he comes to the inside. They nearly touch, and Bradley Ream is out front. Those lap fresher tires that he had over the 62 paying dividends right now, and Bradley Ream now leads with 9 laps to go for GT Le Mans. Now Fitzwater and the Catbirds need to potentially get him back, but he's under fire from the 33 of Crown Jr. And Crown Jr. 2 lap fresher tires than Fitzwater. But a handful of laps into this run, I really don't think that's going to matter all that much. Nathan Stapleton goes off course in the 97. And up in here, some more GTLM cars in between the battle for GT Daytona's race lead. But back up in here, everybody is fighting with one another for GT Le Mans. And Bradley Ream trying to sail off into the sunset. Started this race in 10th, he's now up to 1st. But he is going to have to get around quite a few more lap down cars. And Fitzwater, who has led 17 laps today, might be seeing victory slide out from under him. But he knows that he needs to have a good run for this points day. Ream is around the 1 machine. Fitzwater trying to get around Diacomo. Diacomo off course. Here comes Fitzwater trying to go to the inside. He's there. They're side by side. Fitzy's got the run down the inside, and the 62 back out in front. Or is he? He's clear. And here's Crown Jr. has not been able to get around Ream yet this afternoon. Could now be the time. But Fitzy's saying, hey, I'm going to be as aggressive as I can without wrecking my race car. He saw a ledge to the inside of that Corvette. He put that number 62 car to the inside. He's back out in front here in a back and forth battle in the late stages of this contest. And now Dylan Matthews to the race lead in GT Daytona. Something has happened to Logan Alexander. He's come down the pit lane. Wasn't a mechanical failure for Alexander, but he is back down the pit lane, and holy Toledo. The dominant driver in the second half for GT Daytona has come down the pit lane, and that'll give the race lead, potentially the race win, to Dylan Matthews if she doesn't have to come down. And that'll be another lap down car that these three musketeers will have to get around. They're all running in the exact same line down the downhill. Taylor runs into Eric Monaco. Monaco, who's got fresh tires, might give these top three a run here, although he is a lap off of the pace. And I am really, really surprised at Logan Alexander coming down the pit lane. I'm not sure if he thought he couldn't make it to the end. These guys have been coming down every 28 laps, so we could see drivers maybe run out. Angel Gutierrez and Michael Lewis have run into each other off of turn number 2. That'll be the end of their competitive afternoons. They were running towards the tail end of GTLM. Rather, they were running just inside the top 10, running 5th and 6th respectively, so that was just behind these leaders. Fitzwater continues to hold on. Gonna catch up to Matt Lagasse, Michael Brown, potentially Logan Alexander as well. And here comes Crown Jr. to the inside of Ream. Those two side by side, and that's exactly what Fitzwater needs to see out of his rear view. 6 laps to go. Can Crown Jr. take the spot away from Ream? Ream might be looking for the crossover here in 2. Not gonna do so. Remember, Crown Jr. has the freshest rubber of these 3 guys at the front of the field, but Eric Monaco is catching it. If Monaco does something stupid on these fresher tires, they might not have to worry about catching up and passing lap down traffic. They might have to worry about lap down traffic passing them. We focus up on here with Dylan Matthews. Right now running in first, and Daniel Bouchard runs in second. Matthews being forced on the outside by the 59. Nearly loses it off the corner, and here comes Bouchard. Might make a run at this win. I mean, of those two to get it, it would be a spin and win for either of them. A really good recovery for both those drivers. And how about Aaron Abel? Up to 3rd right now. Trying to get his name in the championship hunt once again. And the 2 of Monaco is caught back up to the GTLM leaders. 5, count 'em, 5 laps to go here in the Long Island Fall Classic. 1 car off course. Believe that's dirt from earlier. And 2, potentially 3 more lap down cars. Could sit between Zachary Fitzwater, Roberto Crown Jr., or Bradley Ream. Eric Monaco not playing team owner / teammate with Bradley Ream. He'll shoot that 2 machine to the inside. And that might be the end of the afternoon for Ream in terms of getting a win, but he'll still get a nice point stay. And how about this? No quit in the Mike Vincent Jr. camp. That 78 car up to 7th right now. And you want to talk about a recovery, that's a recovery right there after a disastrous start to the race where he was set on the outside pole, spun around to the opening lap, and has played catch-up for the entirety of this race. With 4.5 laps to go, he has put himself in contention for a solid top 10, maybe even top 5 finish. 2 of these drivers at the front of the field have issues, and here we go. Crown Jr. getting around Zachary Fitzwater. 4 laps to go. Can he complete the pass? He's got it covered. Fitzwater now with a crossover move. Does he go to the inside of Roberto this time around? He goes wide. That will allow Ream to go around, and Roberto Crown Jr. out front here in the 33. Scratch that. That was Eric Monaco that got around. He has got the same number, car color, and sponsor as Bradley Ream does In the Mission Barbecue Cup Series, we'll see these drivers race once again tomorrow night, but Roberto Crown Jr., last in the points, trying to be first on the pylon, has gotten around Legacy, and he's got 2 picks in between himself and Fitzwater. Fitzwater now trying to get around Legacy, Ream in tow as well, as Roberto Crown Jr. just about clear of lap down traffic, but here comes Monaco, nearly pushing the 25 car around the 33, but Crown Jr. coming around to 3 laps to go is clear. Next up is Igor Barreto. I don't think he'll catch up to Connor Monaco. Up in here, wide open space for Dylan Matthews, trying to get her first win of the season. And again, everybody on top of everybody. Fitzwater is around the 25, and he is trying to catch back up to that 33 machine. Crown Jr. leads, 3 laps to go from the Bridgehampton race circuit. Does he catch up? Oh, nearly contact between him and Monaco, and Fitzwater's not done yet. Despite the older tires from Fitzwater, he was able to cut in by about half a second that last time by, and he's within 3 car lengths. This race still far from over here at Bridgehampton. And what a race it has been all afternoon so far. 4 different leaders of this race. 5 different leaders, I should say, but it has been insane how on top of everybody has been here, as now Monaco shunting his way to the inside of Barreto. I believe they might catch up to Connor Monaco. Barreto in line. I'm not sure about that 21 car if they'll catch up to him, but here comes Crown Jr. right on the back end of the 14. He's to the inside. Sticks in the air. 2 laps to go from the Bridgehampton race circuit. Everybody on their feet. A little bit more breathing room between Crown Jr. and Fitzwater. Just over 4 miles to go in this one. Monaco lost a lot of time going through the corner, and Fitzwater just trying to catch up to the back end of that 33, but they might catch up to that 21. They're not going to catch up to the 75, but they might catch up to that 021 car. Back for GT Daytona. It is still Dylan Matthews showing the way. Fitzwater has gotten around the 14. Matthews, no pressure in front, no pressure out back. Lap and a half to go for Roberto Crown Jr. Won this race last year in dramatic fashion. Drove through a couple of stricken cars in the final handful of laps. The Monaco brothers go side by side in front of him. This might be trouble. Going through Hansgen for the final time. Eric has gotten around Connor. And Roberto Crown Jr. will see the white flag. 1 lap to go here at Bridgehampton for Roberto Crown Jr. and GT Le Mans. He's got to be careful getting around this 21 machine. Through Hansgen, he cleans it perfectly. And Fitzwater did not have a good run. He's trying to get around that 21 car. What a win this would be for Roberto Crown Jr. 449 points out of the championship hunt. But has been the 3rd wheel for pretty much the entirety of this race. He is half a lap away from getting his first win of the season. Probably have to get around Kasumi Takashi in the 46. Takashi right in front of the 33. Dylan Matthews still the race leader in GT Daytona. Fitzwater is Car length in between there and then, and here comes Crown Jr. to the inside of Takashi. Takashi just going to let that 33 car blow by. And off of turn number 13, coming to the checkered flag, Roberto Crown Jr. for Toyota and Great Clips. We'll see the Octane checkered flag. He goes back-to-back at Bridgehampton. Fitzwater will get second. Ream will get third. That'll round out your podium for GT Le Mans. And for GT Daytona back in here, this is the battle, and Dylan Matthews, the point leader coming into this, has been aggressive all race long. Coming up through turns 11, 12, and 13, Daniel Bouchard with a nice second place run. Same thing for Aaron Abel. Up underneath the Lowenbrough Bridge for the final time. Second win of her career, first of the season. A statement win for the 26 of Dylan Matthews. She will see the checkered flag. She wins for GT Daytona. Daniel Bouchard will get second. Aaron Abel will get third. And that'll round out the podium for GT Daytona. For Roberto Crown Jr. Third fiddle all afternoon long, but his leading will lead 11 laps on the afternoon for his first win of the season. And I think it's safe to say that he might get a summer home here out on Long Island. He goes back-to-back at Bridgehampton for Zachary Fitzwater, 20 laps led, but nonetheless a great result points-wise. Third was Bradley Ream, but the big man, if we can find him, that man right back in there. What a recovery for Mike Vincent Jr. He will likely, he's not going to retain the points lead, as Aguirre Sato, who ended up finishing 9th, will likely retain it. But you want to talk about recovery and grit. That was recovery and grit right there for that number 78 team. They were able to get the job done in spades here this afternoon. And what a result for them. What a result for those guys. And taking a look at your official standings, Roberto Crown Jr. gets the job done here at the Bridgehampton Race Circuit. He wins the Long Island Grand Prix. Zachary Fitzwater is second. Bradley Ream is third. Justin Williams, his best finish since his Denver win, in fourth. Reggie Fogelman rounds out the top five. Dylan Matthews, Daniel Bouchard, Aaron Abel, your podium for GT Daytona. Ryan Durrani and Logan Alexander, despite having a late race pit stop, able to salvage a top five finish. They round out your top five. 3 cars failed to finish the race, 2 of them with mechanical issues, and Sebastian Balmer, the only car out of this race in terms of an engine, or in terms of crash damage. But goodness gracious is all I've got to say, and that was about as entertaining as a finish as you can ask for. Roberto Crown Jr. showing why GTLM is a fun field to watch. And hey, we're trading off fun finishes for every single class. As the last race we had a month and a half ago at Thornton, that was a barn burner down to the wire for GTLM or GT Daytona. Today it's a barn burner down to the wire for GT Le Mans. Roberto Crown Jr. ends up on the top step of the podium for GTLM, and Dylan Matthews on top for GT Daytona. But that is going to do it here from the Bridgehampton Race Circuit. Congratulations to both Roberto Crown Jr. and to Dylan Matthews for being your respective winners of the Long Island Fall Classic here at the Bridgehampton Race Circuit. We'll take another month off before going into our penultimate race of the season, the Spam Grand Prix of Schuylkill, taking place at the Autumn Hill Raceway on November 27th, a 90-lap race on Thanksgiving Day, taking place at 11 o'clock in the morning. See what these guys were able to do then. And after that is the California Christmas Classic on December 25th. That'll be the final race of the season, but coming at you in about a month's time. Thanksgiving race for the Spam Grand Prix of Schuylkill, coming at you on November 27th at 11 a.m. on your home for the FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship, the North American Sim Racing Network. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here are your point standings after race 10 of the 2025 season of the FMGTC. On behalf of everybody at the NASRN, my name is Trey Wright, saying so long from Sag Harbor, New York. This has been a presentation of the FlowMaster Grand Touring Championship here on the North American Sim Racing Network. Have a great evening, folks. We'll see you in a month's time for the Spam Grand Prix of Schuylkill.